If Databricks still feels like one of those tools everyone casually throws into job descriptions, but nobody explains it properly, you are not the problem. The explanations are usually bad. People say things like learn Spark, Unity Catalog, workflows, Lakehouse, and by the end, you are just sitting here thinking, cool, but what is Databricks? So let's fix that in a way that actually makes sense. Hello everyone, welcome to Big Data Factory. I am Pranit and I have over 4 plus years of experience working as a data engineer. If this is your first time visiting this channel, do subscribe for more content on data engineering and real world insights. By the end of this video, you should explain Databricks in one clean sentence, understand the main pieces inside it, know how data engineers actually use it in real work, and know what to learn first without going into panic with Wi-Fi mode. By the end, I want you to be able to say something like this. Databricks is a platform that helps data teams build and run data pipelines using tools like Spark, Delta Lake, governance features like Unity Catalog, and workflows for scheduling jobs. That's already way better than saying Databricks is a kind of Spark on the cloud. Now let's make the sentence real. At the high level, Databricks is a unified platform for building data, analytics, and AI workflows. Officially, Databricks describes itself as a unified, open analytics platform and says its data intelligence platform integrates with your cloud storage and security while managing the cloud infrastructure needed to run workloads. That sounds big and corporate. Now let's translate it. The simplest way to think about Databricks is this. It's a place where data engineers, analysts, and data scientists can work with data using notebooks, SQL, Spark, scheduled jobs, and govern tables without stitching with 10 different tools together by hand. That's the idea. Not magic, just a well packaged data platform. Now, here is where people usually get confused. They think Databricks is one thing. It's not. It's like a bundle of important things that work together. So, let's break that down. First, the workspace. A Databricks workspace is basically your working environment. This is where you keep notebooks, dashboards, data objects, and compute resources. Databricks documentation describes a workspace as the environment that organizes notebooks, libraries, dashboards, experiments, data objects, and compute resources. In normal words, this is where your team works. Second, compute. This is where Spark comes in. Spark is still the engine doing distributed processing. Databricks is not replacing Spark. It's making Spark easier to use, manage, and run in a real platform setting. So if someone asks, is Databricks just Spark? The answer is no. Spark is one major engine inside the Databricks world. Databricks give you the environment, tooling, orchestration, governance, and user experience around that work. That distinction matters in interviews. Third, Delta Lake. This is one of the most important pieces. Delta Lake is the storage layer that powers the Databricks Lakehouse approach. Databricks says Delta Lake is the storage protocol used to power the Databricks Lakehouse, and their own docs state that unless otherwise specified, tables on Databricks are Delta tables. Delta Lake adds things like ACID transactions and reliable metadata on top of Data Lake storage. Again, plain English. Delta helps your tables behave more like real tables instead of random files sitting in cloud storage. That's the big deal. Because data engineering gets very painful when your storage layer is just folders and files. Fourth, Unity Catalog. This is governance. Who can see what? Who can access which table? How do you organize data properly? How do you keep things secure without sending people into permission chaos? Databricks documentation describes Unity Catalog as its governance layer and highlights least privilege access as a core principle. So if Delta is about reliable data tables, Unity Catalog is about managing and governing them properly. Fifth, jobs and workflows. This is the make it run on schedule part. Databricks now documents Lakeflow Jobs as the built-in way to orchestrate data processing, machine learning, and analytic workflows. They also document that these jobs can be scheduled and even orchestrated with external tools like Airflow if needed. Which means from a data engineering point of view, Databricks is not only where you write logic, it also where you operationalize it. That's why companies like it. Now let's make this more practical. How does a data engineer actually use Databricks? Here is a realistic flow. Raw data lands in cloud storage, maybe JSON, maybe CSV files, maybe events, or maybe logs. A Spark notebook or job inside Databricks reads that data, cleans it, joins it, standardizes schema, and writes curated tables, often Delta tables. Then those tables are governed through Unity Catalog. Then scheduled jobs refresh those pipelines on a time-based schedule or another trigger. then analysts query the results using SQL. This is a very normal Databricks style workflow, and Databricks' own data engineering docs position Lakeflow, Jobs, data engineering features, and Unity catalog exactly around this sort of pipeline-driven workflow. So if you are a data engineer, here is the key mindset. Databricks is not one new thing to memorize. It's a platform where a bunch of familiar DE tasks are brought together. Storage-aware processing, Spark jobs, SQL analytics, govern tables, and schedule workflows. Now let's clear up the four big confusions quickly because this is where most people get lost. Databricks versus Spark. Spark is the processing engine. Databricks is the platform around it. Databricks versus AWS. AWS is the cloud provider. Databricks runs on the top of the cloud and integrates with your storage and security. Databricks says its platform integrates with cloud storage and security in your cloud account while managing the infrastructure for you. Databricks versus Snowflake. Snowflake is primarily thought of a cloud data platform or warehouse style environment. Databricks is broader on the engineering scale when people are building Spark heavy pipelines, lakehouse style systems, and notebook driven workflows. You don't need to turn this into a war. Just know they overlap in some places and differ in others. Databricks versus just notebooks. Notebooks are only one part. If you all think Databricks is a notebook UI, you are seeing maybe 15% of the picture. Now here is the part people actually want. If you are new, what you actually learn first. Don't try to learn all of Databricks in just 1 week. That's a great way to remember nothing. Learn it in this order. Understand the platform at a high level. Workspace, notebooks, compute, tables, and jobs. Second, if you already know basic Spark, learn how Spark code is typically written and run inside Databricks. Third, understand delta tables. This is one of the most practical things to know because it shows up everywhere in Databricks conversations. Fourth, learn Unity catalog at a beginner level. Not every admin detail, just understand what is it for. Fifth, learn how jobs and workflows run. Because data engineering is not just write code once, it's make it run reliably. That's the path. And here is where most beginners mess this up. They jump straight into advanced cluster settings, every UI menu, every optimization, every product word Databricks use. Don't do that. That's like learning every button in a car before understanding what is steering, brakes, and gears. Another mistake, treating Databricks as a replacement for fundamentals. Databricks does not replace SQL, Spark basics, storage concepts, partitioning, and debugging mindset. If you don't understand data movement, Spark, and tables, Databricks will just become a prettier place to feel confused. And one more mistake, trying to impress people by saying, I know Databricks, when what you really mean is, I opened a notebook once. That doesn't help you. Much better to say, I understand how Databricks fit in a data engineering workflow and I am learning Spark plus Delta plus workflows inside it. That sounds grounded. So let's wrap this up cleanly. Databricks is a platform that brings together the things data engineers actually use. A workspace to build in, compute to run jobs, Delta tables for reliable storage, Unity catalog for governance, and jobs or workflows to operationalize pipelines. That's the picture, not just random buzzwords, a workflow. If this video did its job, you should now understand what Databricks is, why companies use it, how it's fit into data engineering work, and what to learn first without getting confused. If you want, comment Databricks and I will make part 2 on one of these. Databricks architecture, Databricks interview questions, Databricks project tutorial, or Databricks versus Snowflake. And if you're preparing for jobs, watch the next video in the interview series because once you understand what Databricks is, the next step is learning how interviews ask about it. This is all for today. We'll meet in the next video. Till then, keep learning and keep building. Bye bye.